And I promise you, if you're listening to this, you do have a powerful story. It's just a matter of how you're getting it in front of people that's going to connect with them and get them to want to take that next step and just contacting you, right? That's all we're trying to get them to do in these initial stages is get you above all of the other competition that's out there.
Hey, Kevin Hansen here again with another episode of Create to Connect. And today's discussion is another conversation with someone I consider a brand experience partner. Maybe not necessarily my partner, but hopefully someone that can be your partner that helps elevate your experience as a business so that your impact, your impression on people in your community is even stronger. And we're going to be talking about video today. If you don't know Nick Bonitatibus with Digital Champions, he is someone that has made waves and ripples in the home care industry. He's got years of experience in it. He's a name that I've been familiar with for almost 10 years now, Nick. Like, holy cow. But this is a conversation I love. The hardest thing I'm going to have here is staying on point, but because there's so much we can talk about regarding video and stories and how it can help businesses. But Nick, thanks for joining me today. Kind of fill in a little bit more for businesses that may not know you, even those that do know you, add a little flavor to what they may not know about you and how you work with businesses and video enhancement and video creation to help their brands become more recognizable and more connective.
I love it. Thank you, Kevin. Grateful to be here. So it's funny that you said 10 years because I've been in the industry 11 years, over 11 years, getting there. The years just continue to compile. And I love working in this space, working with home care agency owners because they truly have a passion for helping people. And, my whole goal and what we're trying to do is just get more people to know who you are and what you're about. Because that's really is what's driving the greatest results is, the people behind the brand. And so that's what we're doing is we're putting yourself out there in a way that's going to showcase you as an industry leader, as an industry expert, as somebody who, really understands what people are going through, what their struggles are, and being that resource during that time of need.
Awesome. Well, before we start recording, there's something that we talked about a little bit, and it was the value of that face-to-face, that word of mouth that happens for home care businesses. And while that's always going to be incredibly important in home care, it will always dominate and getting the profitable revenue going. Right next to that is that digital experience that can happen for businesses. So as you get that established and you want people to continue having that experience beyond that, video is incredible because it's the next best thing to that actual face-to-face. And it's a great way for you to tell a story, share a story. And those stories can be your own stories. It could be customer, client stories, caregiver, team member stories that are conveyed through video. And that's just kind of a no-brainer, right? You get to hear it, see it. If you put closed caption on it, you even get to read it. There's so many different ways that video can be used powerfully for that. And something I brought Nick on here because I really hammer hard on stories being a way to put things out there and get ahead of. Your brand story is really the experiences you have with other people, not what you've defined the day you sat in the boardroom and wrote things down. That's the real tangible experiences. How have you seen video help businesses kind of get out of that shell to be able to put that story out there? And what are some ways you've seen that impact them, both on that personal level, but also on the business side of things for the outcomes that we all hope they experience? And that's like the main things we're going to talk about. So we're going to break those two things down because that's a big question, but we're going to break that down here as we visit.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I want to say quick too, because if you're resistant to video, I would just want to point out too the idea of storytelling. And you mentioned like no brainer, and the funny part is there's so many people that don't even want to put their photo on their website, and they don't want to put their story on their website that's written. It's like, come on, like we can do this in today's world. You got to get your story out there. If you're not ready for video or you don't want to take that step yet, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be utilizing the storytelling. But what I've found, and I have countless, stories from clients that we worked with where basically we're helping our clients to create their brand story and share like why they're in this business, what makes them different, what's their mission. Those are some of the key focal areas. And what's been so amazing, I mean, I literally had this example that just happened, over the holidays and within the new year, where one of my clients, we just got his video up live and we're jumping on a coaching call, and he's so excited to tell me that, he was prepared with wins, because anytime I jump on a coaching call, I always make sure that my clients have a win ready to start the call. But he actually had two. And the first one, which I thought was so funny, the first one, someone that had talked to him over the holidays, no joke, quoted his video to him on the call. And, things that you're hearing is just, things like, "Oh my gosh, your story is so powerful." Like that's what can happen when we can create this emotional connection. Another example, again, that happened, that same client, the individual watched it on his website and specifically said, "As soon as I saw your story, I knew that you were the person to take care of my dad." It's like,
Mhm.
that is what we're doing. We are creating a conversion engine, this tool that is on your website that becomes so powerful, because when someone's going around, they're looking from website to website, generally speaking, a lot of the key pieces are the same thing. And so what are we doing that's going to make us different, that's going to help us to stand out? It is that human element. It is that human behind the brand that is driving the greatest results. And really, that's all I care about. Like, I got so excited. I'm not winning unless my clients are winning. So the more stories I hear, and again, that's just one example for a client perspective, but also the why video. I've got countless stories and how it helps with caregiver recruitment and sharing your story, right? And developing referral partners out in the industry by them knowing your story. The more people that know your story and know what you're about, the better it will be for your brand and your business.
Well, I got a text yesterday, actually. I didn't even tell you about this, Nick, but one of someone that we work together with has sat static with social media for a long time, not growing much at all. And she sent me a screenshot of a report Facebook gave her. She's about a third more followers to her group than when she started with me 6 months ago. She's got more engagement, and it's a combination of more engaging images as well as video in the social media. But video, I mean, if you can get out there in front of people, it definitely has way more engagement than the static images, and certainly more than static text, because it adds, as you mentioned a couple times, that human element. How more vibrant is it for people to see, touch, feel, so to speak, you and understand you and your why behind that? And then how much more is that story come through by hearing vocal inflections and hearing that passion, that conviction really in the voice as they talk about it, rather than just read it. Like, now you're really connecting on a different level. And, again, Create to Connect is this channel, this podcast group, because everything you do isn't just to fill a quota, which is the old way of doing online marketing or any kind of marketing at all with text and contact, and keywords. It's about creating a connection with that person. And if they can relate with you and understand you at a human level, and they can relate, like, oh yeah, you had that experience, I'm having that experience, right? That goes so much further than just filling that state licensing requirement kind of level content for what's being out there for home care. And I know you kind of hit at it with all the identical websites out there. That's really all they are, is technical reads rather than connective content that hits at the heart.
Yeah, and I know sometimes people, they come to me, and maybe you're thinking this right now as you're listening, like, "Oh, I don't really have a super compelling story." And, you know, my, response to that is very simple. Do you care about helping people? That is all that we're trying to get across. And so your story can be simply, "I love seniors. I think they're awesome and I want to help them." Period. Like, that's all we're looking for, is just to showcase you. But if you, write that on a website, yes, it definitely, especially if you wrote it just how that I just said it sounds very personal. It probably would go well, but it's so much more powerful in that video format, because showcasing that emotional connection. You're showcasing this human element of, yes, I do care. I care about seniors, and whatever. There's a reason that you chose home care. Okay. There's a lot of other businesses. I don't care what people say. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I just started this business because I want to make money. It's like, well, there's a lot of other businesses that you could have done that can make money. This
Mhm.
there's always, and sometimes it takes me just like kind of diving in and reeling them in and to figure out and kind of pull out what their real, connection to the senior, industry is. And I'm like, yes,
Mhm.
that's the goal. That's what we want to use. And I promise you, if you're listening to this, you do have a powerful story. It's just a matter of how you're getting it in front of people that's going to connect with them and get them to want to take that next step and just contacting you, right? That's all we're trying to get them to do in these initial stages, is get you above all of the other competition that's out there.
Biggest thing here is like you're fitting the industry needs and requirements to even get the door open. But in your content, in your video content, it's really about connecting your voice, your why, your to what's out there, to the purpose that's out there, rather than just stating it. And having that real personal delivery of it, whether it's you as an owner or a team member that you've got a great story with that can really share something. Also, clients. Like clients are another great way of pulling that story because then it's not just your story getting started, it's a continued story that you're continuing to write. There's a story that was written that got you into business, and that's important as well too. And then there's a story that you're continuing to write that if it's captured on video and reshared and restated, that will go even further as well. Like just take things ongoing because I doubt your story ended the day you open your business, right? Your story continues. So
Yeah,
we
it
definitely want to
evolves,
capture
it
those as well.
changes, like, it doesn't have to be the same either. What maybe you started may be different now. You may have been in business for a few years now and you have a different, outlook on, what maybe started as, yeah, this was a clear pivot for me to go into home care, but now it's, oh my gosh, I love this industry every day. I'm excited to wake up and help more people, towards the end of life, towards their, high time of need, whatever that may be. And just again, how can you let people know that you care before you're even able to have a conversation with them?
All right. So Nick, beyond the camera shyness that some people might have, what else is the barrier to entry to get some video started?
Yeah, I mean,
Help
I
people
think that
understand the minimum of what they need to just get something out there.
I always find it interesting because it's a big reason why we're, in business, is because a lot of times, it's just time. A lot of times I have people come to me and they say, Nick, you know, I've wanted to do video for years now, but I just haven't, it just continues to get pushed to the back burner. And that's just how a lot of things are, and so a lot of what we do is kind of like we're like the physical trainer, right? Our job is to make it as simple and easy as possible for you to create this video without you having to, spend time, worrying about looking up cameras or whatever it may be, editing, all the things that come with that. But even if you weren't to move forward with us and you're just like, hey, I want to get started, I want to create a video, it can be as simple as just taking out your iPhone and just, maybe go live, honestly, if you're worried about the editing and everything else that comes with that in this world of very polished things. It can be really powerful to just go, hey, I wanted to take a moment and just kind of share my story. Because it's live, it forces you to know that it's live, so you're actually less likely to make mistakes because you know that you can't. And so that's like a little trick that you can do. But even let's say you don't want to do the live, it can just be as simple as getting on and just saying, "Hey, I just want to take a quick moment and say I care. Here's a little bit about my story," and not overcomplicate it. Because what we've found is, it's not the most polished or the 5K video, or 4K, whatever. That is not what's creating the greatest results. If you want to succeed, it's all around authenticity. And so if you can just create a video that showcases you being authentic, not worrying so much, not trying to, over script, because that's something that, we don't do scripts with our clients because people tend to read scripts, and then when you read a script, then it sounds inauthentic, and it just
Yep.
like it becomes this, well, now we're defeating the whole purpose. The whole purpose was to be authentic. If now you're reading a script, then is it really your story? It's not. It doesn't flow because you're trying to use words and speak ways that you've never used before. You're using ChatGPT to create some script that doesn't sound like you, and then you're wondering why it's so difficult to record this video. That's why, because it's not you. The easiest way to record video is to record as if you're having a conversation, like you're just talking to a client or just talking to a friend. But there's something about the camera that people start to freak out and they get in their head. And honestly, here's the superpower. Here's the secret. And again, this is the sauce of the key to being good on video is to stop caring about what people think. That's the number one thing. If you don't care, then you're not worried so much, you're not thinking so much, and it just flows out your mouth. It is as simple as that. I say simple, it's not always easy. It sometimes takes practice and you have to be willing to put yourself out there, but it is really simple.
Well, I think another thing is people overcomplicate how much they need to talk, and how much they have to cover. They feel like they have to just say everything and anything about that. When, like, when I go to a big box store and they have sample Saturday, right? It's that one chip with that one little bit of dip on there that makes me just go grab more off the shelf, right? They're not throwing the whole container at me. Okay. So finding things that are relevant and timely and sharing a brief something about that in those Facebook Lives or even just quick records and uploads, like those will go really far because they're just conversational sound bites. It's digestible. And something I found in this industry, I've worked with a lot of industries over the years, and the majority of who I've worked with the last decade has been home care. But of all the client bases and right fit audience bases I've worked with, this one seems to come with an additional level of overwhelm. And so the video content you put out there, the message that comes with that needs to be really simple and connective and helpful for them in that moment so that you have that connective experience, that moment where they feel relief, they feel support, they feel direction has been given and provided to them so they can take action. If you load them up with a training week for caregivers level video content, you might just add to their overwhelm rather than reduce overwhelm. So that's another thing is bite-sizing it down to where, one, it's easier for you to record it in one sit down because you can get through it, and it's easier for you to hold on to something. It's also way easier for your audience to hold on to that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a sweet spot, and especially with telling your story that we tend to lean into. I think there's a misconception around it has to be in 1 minute in a lot of cases. I think that was, you know, definitely a trend for a while, but what I've found is, when it comes to telling your story and especially with education and the time varies. But I always get this question. I always get like, how long should the video be? And the answer is very simple to that. However long it takes you to tell the story, whatever you're trying to get across.
Yep.
But there is somewhat a caveat to that, which is when you're telling your story, generally keeping it under 3 minutes is kind of our sweet spot that just makes it easier. But here's the thing, right? Like I have all the analytics around every video that I make with all my clients, so we can see like how long people are watching. And so, sometimes we'll have a video that's like 4 minutes long, but people are still watching 2 minutes long, or most of the people are getting 40% through, or like
Hmm.
that's amazing. Someone listened to you for 2 minutes. That's still really good. So they don't even have to listen to the whole video for
Yep.
you to get value out of the video. So, sometimes it's not even worrying about the length. It's like if someone watches you for 1 minute, even if the video is longer, that's still going to have a really impactful benefit to your business and your brand.
I think a lot of people hold themselves to that minute rule because that's what reels and stories last, which is not supposed to be full content. Like those are supposed to be samples. Those are snippets. So if you can take bits of your story and put those into the reels and other stuff like that, rather than make that your aim, like that's where the magic can
But even
happen.
but even Reels is like extending now with like length of time. I mean,
Yeah, they're
Facebook, you can just upload a vertical video for 10 minutes, and
we'll
it's
think
and
TikTok for going to 10 minutes because to
Exactly,
force
and I
Facebook to
thought
do
that was
that. So,
so funny. I thought it was so funny because everyone kept saying short form, and I'm like, "Oh, but now TikTok has TikTok Live." What's your excuse there? Like, they went from 1 minute to 1:30 to, to 2
5
minutes.
minutes to 10 minutes to live.
They
Yeah.
just kept pushing, 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 and, like, that's the whole thing is, people will watch as long as you have their attention.
Yeah. As long as the content's connective and informative and helpful, and you're doing it in a way that isn't so scripted and so forced, it's comfortable for everyone, then you will definitely have the impact there. As you work with clients, like what's a good tip for them to at least kind of focus more on, I'll call it their story in the sense of client based story, right? Our story is going to be the brand side story the owners come out with, and those are really helpful, and main web pages and things like that to express their why behind the whole company and specific services. But when you look at um, the client story, the caregiver stories, what are some tips you have there just so they can be a little more strategic about that and how they even think about that?
Yeah, and I love this question, and, the answer is something that I talk about all the time. Well, one thing that when we're working with clients or just, teaching and speaking, no matter what it is, I'm very strategic oriented on how are we doing things in a way that are going to drive the greatest results, like understanding sales psychology and what things are going to drive the needle, right? And so one of the biggest things when it comes to sales is the ability to showcase transformation. And when we can showcase that, that's really what people want, whether it's caregiver or client. And I'll give some examples, but it's this idea of what was it like before they were working with you and what is it like after? And so when it comes to the client story, it's like those are the two questions that are absolute gold
Hmm.
in really honing in on what was it like? Well, I was really struggling or I was worried about my mom every single day, whether or not she was safe. I just, she was not doing much. She was, just sitting on the couch watching TV all day. Now she's working, with the caregiver and she's so energetic. She's doing puzzles and she's painting, which she hasn't done in years, right? You're seeing this transformation. And so when you're in this position and you're talking about the before, the person that is going through that right now is now associating themselves in that position. And then
Hmm.
they want the desired outcome, which is the result from the transformation. And the same thing works from the caregiver perspective, right? What is the caregiver perspective before they started working with you? What are they struggling with? What are the big issue that they're having with their current company? And now what is it like now? Oh, well, the communication with the team is so great. I love the culture, right? And so you're seeing this transformation. And so when the individual can identify in that element of problem, and then they see that your service, your job opportunity is the solution, you now become the only solution for them because you're there to solve their problems. And that's what business is about. It's about solving problems.
Exactly. And, as I work with people on content, we want to run it that way. What was the experience? Like what connects with the person on a level that relates with them? And through that outcomes driven context, like taking people through the experience, you're actually doing two things. You're educating them on what it can do for them without doing it in what I'll call licensees that fulfilling the state obligation for audits, right? That's not the language that's going to speak to them, but you're showcasing the outcomes and experiences, and they catch on to the what's that happen and how's in the subcontext, but they end up being pulled right into an experience. Right. If their mom or another loved one has dementia or Parkinson's or has issues with just self care, whatever it is, they're drawn into that because it's hyper relative, relatable, connective, and they learn. So you don't have to go into this piece where you're training them like caregiver training week. Again, I'll bring that up again. You're training them, but through a context that they understand how the outcome's achieved without spelling it out. You're just highlighting the benefits. And that's a power in video that just sticks. And now it holds. And not all the other stuff's gonna be out there. So gonna need some content, some of the things to back it up and support it. I'll call it sacrifices to the Google gods and the AI gods. But for that final moment of getting someone to really see it, to connect, and hopefully convert to a good qualified lead. Video is so powerful.
Yeah, and I love what you said, right? This element of, benefits. There are so many times, and I preach about this all the time in the sense that there are constantly home care agencies just talking about services constantly. And my whole thing is nobody cares about your services. No one cares that home care is activities of daily living and you're going to help with light housekeeping, blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
That is not what they care about. Stop focusing on the features of what you offer and start focusing on the benefits, and you will see your conversions go up. They don't care about the little bells and whistles. They want the results that are going to happen, and that comes from the benefits. Home care is the vehicle, right? Activities of
Hmm.
daily living, that's just the vehicle to get them to the result that they want. And that's a whole nother element too of you don't sell your agency. You're selling home care. And
Hmm.
that's a big mistake that I think a lot of agencies make too, is that they're so focused on trying to sell themselves instead of just selling what is home care. And then when you're doing that well, they're like, well, it sounds like I really need this home care thing. And you're like, oh well, we can help with that. That's what we're really
Natural
doing. Yeah.
conclusion, right? So it should be a natural
Exactly. Like,
conclusion there.
I don't sell
Yeah.
digital champions. I sell video. Why is video so powerful? Why is it so amazing? How can it be beneficial for business? Here's the results that can happen with video. Oh, you want help with that? You want to make it really easy in 2 hours a month? We can help with that. Right? Like, that's exactly what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. And there's so much more we can talk about on this, Nick. Like, this is such a fun conversation. I don't care about the awkward point. I gave up being awkward in front of a camera years ago. I just started talking, and I had someone the other day tell me they love my LinkedIn videos I do, and I was like, "Well, I'm glad someone's watching." I don't even pay attention to the audience anymore, other than I know who I'm trying to reach. I want to put together a message that gets them, but like I don't look at things too myopically on whether or not something holds or sticks, because I just don't want to get stuck on that. You would probably have a different opinion on that as you work with clients. You do, like
I
you,
have not watched one of my videos in 5 years.
yeah.
You
So I
know,
just pump them out there, and I'm like, great. In fact, I had someone remind me what I said the other day. I was like, what? Like I said, what? So it's one of those things, like my whole goal and your whole goal as an owner, and as you, even if you're working with Nick here especially, is to come up with something that you feel will connect with your audience and put it out there, put yourself out there in a place, in a way that draws people towards your message. And hopefully, as they get that message, they draw towards you as that solution provider, right? To actually commit with. And it's not a one time thing. This takes work, it takes some effort to get out there, but that shouldn't start you from stopping. So, Nick, like on that note, if someone wants to look at this and try and figure out where they're at in their stages of this and adding video to their effort as a business to reach throughout their community and have these experiences and bring these outcomes to families, like what's the best way to get a hold of you and see what some of those next steps should be for them?
absolutely. Yeah, it's simple if you just go to our website, thedigitalchamps.com, and schedule a call. Um, my goal, no matter what on the call, is to be a resource. And if it's not a right fit for you, I'm going to give you the 10 other people that I think are, right? Like, I pride myself on being a resource, based on what your situation is and what's going to be the greatest thing for right now, where you're at and what your budget is. And so if you just want to have a conversation, that's all you need to do is go to our website, and we'll talk.
Well, depending on the platform, I'll have the link in the description or somewhere in the comments for you to be able to connect with Nick. Nick, always a pleasure. I love everything I've seen coming from you, whether it's just jogging stops and advice for businesses as you think about something on the fly. Like literally, you guys are overthinking this if you can't just stop a daily morning run and say something to your audience, right? It's that easy, all the way to some of the stuff you really produce and really put a lot of thought and production value into as well too. It's all a full range of things. And if it's something that can help your business, Well, I know video can help your business, but if it's something that Nick can help you with, I know he'd be a good brand experience partner for you in that realm. He's going to be on our website in a couple places. Again, if you're listening to this on Spotify or on YouTube, check the link for the descriptions or social media. Definitely have a conversation with him. Get at the very least some breakthrough ahas that you can take into effect in your business right now, and then work up to the things that you can really leverage for you.
Thank you, Kevin. You're amazing. This conversation easily could have went on 6 hours. So the fact we did it under 30 is pretty amazing. I think we should both be very proud of ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Nick, appreciate it. Everyone, stay tuned, subscribe for more Create to Connect, and hear from other brand experience partners and some other business owners that have had some breakthroughs as they've created more connective experiences through their brands.